Hey Home Inspire, welcome to Heaver House in Southwest London. I'm Lara, let me show you around. Hi, welcome to Heaver House. My name is Lara. I am originally from South Africa and lived in London for nearly 30 years. I bought this house 16 years ago as a family home for my 3 growing children. And we have loved living in Balham/Tooting. It's a Victorian property, it's sort of early Victorian era, part of an initiative by a builder called Alfred Heaver, who built a series of show homes in the early Victorian period to entice families to stay in London. And this is one of them. So here at Heaver House, we use the property for lots of film and photo shoots. You can also rent it out for a stay in London via Airbnb. We have loads of fantastic international families coming through our property. We've been doing it for nearly 15 years now, and it gives them a little insight into living in London, but with lots of space. So this is one of 2 of the front rooms of the property. Being a double-fronted home, it had 2 original living rooms. All of the living rooms and bedrooms have these amazing original fireplaces, which we've actually kept. In fact, some of them we had to salvage from behind boards. They'd been covered up so that it didn't get cold in the winter. What I love most about these Heaver House properties are the original features. You've got amazing cornices and skirting boards, and we've tried to be as sympathetic as possible to that. In fact, we've had specialists come in and help us recreate what was damaged when we bought the property. In terms of what I've done in here, not much in terms of structure, but I love this color. It's a farrow and ball color. I call it Inshera blue. I've been corrected many times to Inkera and I don't know. Farrow and ball, we need your help on that pronunciation. But this room is where it started. It was inspired by a painting my daughter did, which is actually on the wall behind me. And I love that it's sort of blue or green. It's dark if you want to watch a movie. We've got great blackout blinds in here. It's a fantastic sort of family room. But I loved it so much that I ended up using it pretty much through our entire kitchen extension, which we will get to shortly. So this is the second of the reception rooms at the front of the house. I've gone for a much paler pink in here, which is my favorite color, and you'll see it throughout the house, including our front door, which has actually become a bit of a TikTok sensation. Someone who I don't know walks past it every year and films it when our roses are in bloom. But I've stuck with pink in here because it's a really calm color. We use this more as a formal space. In fact, we call it our Christmas room because at Christmas time, the tree goes in the window. This is where we gather for all our Christmas morning activities. It sadly doesn't get used much more than that, but it is such a perfect space to gather lots of people. What I like about it most is that it actually flows naturally through to the dining area. So this space, as I say, is far more formal. We do use it, and it's a lovely calm space. In fact, it's where most of our cats live as well. I suspect it's the coolest place in the house during these hot summer days. So this is the archway that we added when we did our extension, which pulls the front reception room into our dining area. Again, you can see I've used the Inshera blue paint in here, which I think in this light looks a completely different color to the front room, which is meant to be dark and cozy. And in here, it creates a far cooler space. The back of the house is south facing, which means we get all the sunshine, especially with these beautiful hot summers we're getting at the moment, into the back. And I found this color absorbs the heat. It seems to cool it down. It's great for sort of summer dining. So the dining room, which is the extension from our living room down here, then flows naturally into our kitchen. During COVID, when we were all living in the house together, we realized we needed to make a change. This used to be our kitchen, and it was a tiny L-shaped. We had a big hot auger in the corner, and with 3 growing children and us in the house, we realized we needed way more space. We all loved to gather around a kitchen island. So we started the project then, and we actually ended up having 2 kitchens at once because we moved it from this spot to the extension, which we're going to move on to, and this kitchen became redundant pretty quickly as we moved on to the other space. It formed a very natural dining area, and actually my favorite feature is where the Auger was. We were thinking of putting in a fire or a wood-burning stove, and then realized actually it was such a natural bar, and that's what it is. So we gather around, this is where we entertain mainly, and we've got a little bar in the background where the Auger was. Around to the kitchen, this is what we did during COVID, and it was the best thing we did. When I originally drew up the plans for the central island, my builder thought I was absolutely insane. He was like, "You're never going to fit that in. We're never going to find a piece of stone that big." And of course we did. It is unusual to find one whole piece. And in fact, there's a story about this. The first one they delivered was a rainy day, and about 8 guys were picking it up off the back of the truck, and as they pulled it off, the whole piece smashed onto our road, and every person down the street was watching out their windows. Anyway, this is granite number 2, and it's been the best thing we've done. We sit around here, we deliberately put the induction hob on the island so that when we're cooking, it's very sociable. You can see again, I've used the color, the Enchero blue in here, which I think looks very green and goes beautifully with the fired earth green tiles, which I actually sourced those before we even designed the kitchen. I just thought they were magnificent and cool and felt like water, and that's sort of how the scheme came about. So one of the little features we added was a secret laundry, because I like keeping things tidy. And in here, because it doesn't have any windows, I've painted it in this Dutch orange, which I think looks like egg yolk or really sort of warm sunshine. And on this wall over here, my father-in-law gave me his old collection of china, which looks so beautiful against the orange. But yeah, this is where all the fun happens. So it's pantry, laundry, and a little bit of sunshine. So we have 4 resident cats that live with us who we adore. And if you rent the house as an Airbnb guest, you get them for free. And in fact, all our guests have loved having cats in the house. They're super friendly. We have Margot sunning herself here. So this little addition we did this year, in fact, our garden was the last bit of the house that we've done, because the summer seemed to be getting hotter and we spend more and more time here in the summer. We added this pergola, which has been fantastic. We get all the southwest sunshine, and you can see it's just like a little oasis of calm out here, which the cats seem to love as well. And then here in the garden, being from South Africa, I am done with trying to grow roses and tulips and daffodils. So my gardener has filled it with tropical plants, which hopefully a couple of years from now are going to be enormous. But I've got banana palms and ferns and very easy to grow evergreens. But it's just a lovely calm space now, and I feel like increasingly as my kids get older, we're going to spend time here. They're going to just hang out with us sort of in the garden, socializing, drinking cocktails. This is our latest addition. My husband, as I mentioned, loves to cook, and he spent the last few years standing outside, come rain, shine, snow, with a head torch on and the barbecue cooking. And so we decided to add this, which is actually a very South African or Australian element to any garden. So we have a local builder who came in and designed it for us, and we've added a fantastic Gozney pizza oven, a big gas barbecue, and a kamado, a green egg. And he uses all of them at once. It's extraordinary how much mess he can make, even in the garden. But yeah, the Gozney, if you don't have one, I highly recommend getting one, because it's gas-fired, which makes it super easy for someone like me to use. But he spends hours building little fires in there and making everything from like homemade pizzas. He made apple crumble recently in a really amazing like cast iron dish. Delicious. We added a little breakfast bar, and we've actually had that table for years and it fitted so perfectly here. But we love to entertain, and this is the perfect spot outdoors. We'll head back into the kitchen now. Oops. And again, like I mentioned earlier, we get all this sunshine in the afternoons. So we actually chose to keep a simple door and windows rather than adding a huge amount of glass at the back of the house, because otherwise it just gets too hot. So we're back in the hallway now between the reception rooms. This is very much the middle of the house. In here we've tried to retain all of the period features, including the really beautiful Victorian tiles on the floor, the balustrades, and the stained glass windows in my famous pink door. Follow me upstairs. Hello, Ravy. Being South African, you'll see little nods to Africa all over this house. This is probably the most graphic. It is my favorite wallpaper. It's by Cole & Son. It's a collaboration they did with a South African brand called Ardmore, who I know and love well. And I did it in this loo, which I always think it's fun to do in a small bathroom. You can really go for it with color. So all the walls are done. I've painted all the woodwork black. You can be quite dramatic in small spaces because it's just kind of a little wow factor, and then you can leave and it can be calm again. Next up we have our spare bedroom, we call it, our guest bedroom. Again, with all the south-facing windows, you have to think carefully about what colors you choose. And this is extremely calm and cool, which is important. I have a vintage French bed, which I bought many years ago. I can't even remember how many hundreds of years old it is, but it is. And it's so comfortable. It has an original horsehair mattress. And anyone who stays in here tells me how much they love it. So this is, it's not used by any of my children, but when their friends come and stay, this is where they all seem to end up. So up to the next level, I love using a hallway as an art gallery. I think you can put photographs and you can put paintings, and more importantly, you can cover it in African baskets, which I collect. Every time we go to anywhere in Africa, I buy another basket and I put it on the wall. So at some point we're going to run out of hallway space, but for now it looks great. This is the first of my children's bedrooms. She's an artist. Well, she's not actually. She's a neuroscientist, but she loves painting. And there's always a collection of art in the corner of her room. And I painted the room this color because it shows less of the paint on the walls when she's painting. And I love her being home, but also she does tend to bring a whole kind of heap of creativity with her. So the fact that it's even this tidy is extraordinary. When we bought the house, these were already built in. The wardrobes were here, and I love storage. I think storage is so important in these homes. It's so often overlooked, especially when you look at show homes. And we were gonna pull them out because they weren't exactly to my taste. But in fact, we painted them, changed the handles, and it is probably the best storage in any of the bedrooms. My daughter unfortunately gets all the overflow from my wardrobe in here as well. But I think these rooms are so lovely and wide and big that you can actually afford to put in decent storage and a good sized bed and a desk or a dressing table, and still have a wonderful feature like a fireplace and a big mirror. So this is the main bedroom. It's the main bedroom because we decided to have the ensuite, which was actually done before we moved in. But I do love that we have our own bathroom, and in fact, we took half the bathroom and turned it into a dressing room area. In here, I've used a fantastic wallpaper by a company called Lewis & Wood, who they are so bespoke that they even get the dimensions of your room and they give you the exact number of panels that you need to use. But I loved it so much because it feels like you're sleeping in a forest. It's like, I think they're birch trees, I'm right in saying, and you wake up in the morning feeling like you're in the middle of a glade. And we get all the morning sun because on this side of the house, we get the early rising sun, and it's beautiful and light and calm. And in fact, we live on a very quiet road, so it's hard to believe sometimes that we're even in London. Anyway, through here is the ensuite, mind the steps. My dressing room is in here, which it doubles as a locking up space, storage space for all of my personal items when we Airbnb the house. So it's very super easy, lock up and go. And in here, this is the bathroom that we did recently. We added a corner shower, a rainforest shower, which I love. And my builder gave me great advice on the bath. And he said, you don't need a huge amount of space between your shower and your bath. So he butted it right up against the shower. And we still have plenty of space in here for us. One of the things that we had made bespoke in here was a concrete top for our sink, a double vanity, which I'd seen in South Africa loads. And when I spoke to my builders here, they'd never even heard of it. But we managed to find an amazing company who built a frame, poured the concrete, made the double vanity, and I love that it gives that slight industrial feel, super easy to clean, and it looks great. So we've just recently refurbished this as it's the top family bathroom for where the children have their bedrooms, and it was a jungle wallpaper which they'd all got a bit bored of. So we've just kept it very monochromatic. We've added a double vanity, little shower behind the door here, and I think everybody loves a bath. So one of the big debates when we were redoing this bathroom is whether to keep the bath. This is actually original, and they all agreed that, especially having two daughters, that a bath is essential. So we've kept both, and it's worked extremely well with a small double vanity and very neutral colors for all genders. In here we have my youngest bedroom. She, like me, loves pink, as you can tell. This is actually a new paint company called Lick. I've used it on the woodwork, I've used it on the walls, I've used it on the fireplace surround, I've used it on what was the original Victorian wardrobes, and it's such a great color. It's lovely and cool and calm. I think it's actually quite grown up, even though it's often associated with being a little girl's room. I think it works incredibly well in here. And in here we just added a little bit of shelving, but again, these rooms are big enough that they can accommodate dressing tables and lovely big beds. We made the decision to put double beds into all the kids' rooms a few years back, largely for the rentals, but also it fills the room and makes it feel a little bit more grown up. So we're coming to the end of the house tour. This is the final split level at the top of the house. Being a double fronted, we have 4 bedrooms upstairs, 2 of which we actually use as our studies. So we keep them off limits, and it's what we use as well as our storage for when we rent the house out. So we put all our personal effects and we lock it up so everything is safe. So up here we've got Charlie's bedroom, which has really morphed from being a little boy's bedroom when we first moved in into more of a young adult. Although the one thing we have kept is this amazing map of the world on the wall, which has been quite handy for when I'm planning trips. We haven't done a huge amount in here because, as you can see, it's a lovely big room. I've kept the colors really lovely and cool again. It does tend to get extremely hot at the top of these houses, especially in the summer. The heat just rises up, and even though we do have all the windows open and fans going, these rooms can be a lot warmer than the rest of the house. Original fireplaces, which we've kept. I love painting the features like skirting boards and cornicing the same color as the walls. It just gives a real sense of height. It doesn't cut it off at all, and I think the rooms naturally feel bigger when you use the same color. Thank you, Home Aspire, for coming to visit me today on this beautiful sunny day in London. If you are interested in renting this property for either Airbnb or for a shoot or film location, all of the details will be in the link below. And if you would like to follow me, I'm on Instagram at Heaver House. Feel free to comment, follow, or whatever you do, and hopefully I'll see you there. Thanks again, guys. Bye now.